What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we have a bit of an update around the Activision Bobby Kotick situation. Is now one of their biggest partners, PlayStation, has called them out. On top of that, we have shareholders calling for his resignation, and he doesn't appear ready to budge. We're going to go over all of that here today. Also, we're going to be talking about a big delay that has now taken place. A game that was completely dated for 2022 is actually pushed further into the year. And we're also going to talk about 343 responding to what's pretty much Halo Infinite's biggest problem. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with a game that was announced for cell phones, specifically Android and iOS. And it's one of those cases where you see that this game is heading to phones. And I mean, it's kind of impressive, but it's also really cool to see, I guess, how far mobile technology has come. It's a game that's gone to the Switch, so considering phones are more capable in the Switch, it shouldn't be too surprising, but here we are now with Alien Isolation heading to mobile devices, this being December 16th, and Feral Interactive is doing the port. Smartphones will, of course, have access to the touch controls that they say are customizable, and you can also hook up an external controller, which is probably the way to go about this. I don't know how well this game will control with the touch screen, but it's still something interesting to see pop up here on mobile devices. December 16th, $15, and will include all 7 DLC packs, and might be worth checking out if you're someone who's maybe just looking for something to play on your phone. I think it's more just impressive from the technology side of things, considering how far we've come since, well, Snake. Also, something we've talked about for a while now, specifically since Microsoft announced their cloud gaming initiative they were going to be doing going into this generation, was the idea of having older Xbox consoles like that Xbox One VCR have access to cloud streaming, and in turn, the Xbox Series only games, and it looks like now you can try it out. They released this trailer here announcing that Xbox Cloud Gaming is now available on the Xbox One as well as the Xbox Series X and S. In that case, you could try out a game before you download it. I think this is the best case scenario for cloud gaming, especially right now, more as a utility, a way to try games out before you commit to potentially a 100 gigabyte download or be able to play a game that's just not available on last gen Xbox One system. So pretty cool to see that. I mean, it's there for anyone who has Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. I would like to see it get to a point where instead of having to download a demo, you just stream a portion of the game to try it out and then decide if you want to buy it. Once again, leaning more into the utility side of things for cloud gaming rather than just being the sole platform that we're working towards. Oh, and we do have Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl releasing tomorrow, and we did have review scores go up yesterday, and we can see, for example here, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond currently sitting at a 77 on Metacritic. We can see the critic split, 17 positive, 10 mixed, and for the most part, this is what I was expecting out of these titles, like mid to high 70s. I feel like a lot of people are kind of looking past these games, looking towards Pokemon Arceus to kick off 2022, and this is clearly a play on nostalgia, and I know a lot of people are hoping for much, much more out of a Diamond and Pearl remake, but it's Ilka is doing it as the quote-unquote A-team from Game Freak is working towards Arceus. I'm going to pick these up because I do have a lot of fond memories of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Specifically, I remember playing Diamond, I believe, back on my old DS Lite, and I remember going from the old DS to the DS Lite, and this is, I believe, one of the first games that I picked up on that system when Pokemon Diamond and Pearl came out. So again, nostalgia more or less is what's driving me on picking one of these up, but let me know if you're gonna be grabbing it, especially after looking through some of these reviews. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Halo Infinite. I've been playing the multiplayer beta for Season 1 all week so far, and I'm having a blast with it, but there is something with this game that I think most people have come together and agreed on isn't great. That has to do with progression, specifically with the Battle Pass. The idea here is you complete challenges, and as you do that, you will get experience to unlock different levels as you go through this season, which of course will give you different armor coatings, armor pieces in general, and even skins for your weapons. It's all cosmetic stuff, but it is nice to be able to unlock things as you play through matches. The only issue is you don't get just experience necessarily for playing matches. You have to do challenges. Now, some challenges are very easy. It's like, hey, play 4 matches in PvP and you'll get 200 experience or something like that, right? Fine. Other times, though, it's like use this specific weapon in this specific situation and you'll get a couple hundred experience. And it's something that may just sit on your challenge list for a while. Could be several nights in a row where it's just sitting there and you just don't ever get thrown into that situation because it doesn't benefit your team at that time. Well, it looks like 343 has been seeing kind of the feedback around this. We can see this over on Twitter from Brian Gerard, who is the Halo community director at 343, saying, "Thank you to everyone who has jumped into the Halo Infinite beta so far. FYI, the team is looking at battle pass progression and gathering data from yesterday's sessions, and we'll share updates as we have them. Please continue to share feedback and raise flags as you see them." Now, I'll leave a link down below to this Twitter thread because we do have Brian posting different links as to where you can submit bugs, issues, or just feedback in general. And this is very important right now, especially now for Halo Infinite, because sure, technically the game's not out, we're in a beta, and yeah, they're looking for as much feedback as they can get. So when I see people mention that the Battle Pass is an issue right now, providing genuine criticism and feedback, and I see people say, don't say that about Halo Infinite. No, say that about Halo Infinite because they want to get it right for December 8th when the game, yes, officially releases, even though we're more or less playing the full multiplayer currently. Now, they also need new maps, and of course they need, I would say, a better selection of playlists, considering it's just like quick play and ranked, and half the time you might be playing a game type you don't really feel like playing. Like, there's some nights I just want to play Team Slayer, and that's it. So if they could work out that. But the biggest problem absolutely is that battle pass progression. Right now, we're in a world with gaming where you play free-to-play games and yeah, experiences popping all over the place, things are unlocking, there's shiny stuff everywhere. The idea, of course, to keep you playing and keep you unlocking things. It's that sense of progression that Halo Infinite is currently missing. So it's good to see that they are understanding this is an issue, and hopefully they can work out, maybe it's the experience scale or just handing out more experience just for playing matches. I think there should also maybe be a multiplier if you're winning matches consistently, even if it's like, okay, you have like a 1.5x now multiplier on the experience, then a 1.6, 1%. Maybe it maxes out at just 2, unless you have like, I guess the premium battle pass. There are ways they're going to work to monetize this thing, but let me know your best ideas currently around how to fix up the progression system in Halo Infinite with that battle pass. Next up, let's talk about the updates around the Activision situation. This thing has exploded over the last 24 hours. This on the heels of that massive Wall Street Journal report, essentially pushing allegations that Bobby Kotick knew about everything that was going on, for the most part, at Activision, with that current lawsuit going on in the state of California, going over all kinds of misconduct at Activision. It is, like, seriously, a massive report that you want to check out alongside of that current lawsuit that is ongoing. But it looks like shareholders are not happy with this situation. We're gonna take a look at that, put in a bit of context as well. We can see this posted up over on WashingtonPost.com. They say, in addition to asking Kotick to resign, the group of shareholders is calling for the board's 2 longest serving directors, Brian Kelly and Robert Morgado, to retire by December 31st. Kelly is chairman of the Activision Blizzard board of directors, and Morgado serves as lead independent director. Remember, this was after a statement from the board of directors saying that they essentially back up and have confidence in Bobby Kotick, especially now with all this stuff coming out around his involvement and awareness as to what was going on at Activision Blizzard. Not a great look, and it makes sense why there would be pushback from the Strategic Organizing Center Investment Group. But there's one issue here. Jason Schreier points this out, puts a lot of this into context, saying, I'm seeing a lot of big reactions to this story, but some important context. This group, SOC, owns 4.8 million shares, or just 0.6% of Activision Blizzard. SOC has been criticizing Kotick for a long time. This isn't a turnaround or shift in view from them. Essentially, this is just a smaller group in the grand scheme of things, especially when it comes to shareholders at Activision, which is unfortunate because, well, the one group of people that could probably pressure the board of directors into doing something with Bobby Kotick, getting rid of him mostly, or forcing resignation, would be the shareholders. But 0.6% ownership shareholders, probably not going to gain a lot of traction, especially if they were most likely expecting that reaction from that group. But there's something else going on here, as it looks like Jim Ryan has reacted internally at Sony with a memo that was pushed out to employees. This from Bloomberg, who did obtain that email, again, sent out to employees from Jim Ryan, even linking to the Wall Street Journal report. He said he's disheartened and frankly stunned to read that Activision has not done enough to address a deep-seated culture of discrimination and harassment. They go on to say, we outreached to Activision immediately after the article was published to express our deep concern and ask how they plan to address the claims made in the article. We do not believe their statements of response properly address the situation. That talking about Bobby Kotick, of course, saying, if you don't believe me, you don't appreciate what I've done with this situation, how much I care about it. It's like, did you read the report? Obviously, there is a lot going on here behind the scenes, and it sounds like the press, investigative journalism, they're not letting up right now. There's a lot still ongoing around this situation with Bobby Kotick. But to have Jim Ryan come out and push this memo to employees, reassuring them that, yeah, we're looking into this too. We're talking to Activision. It makes sense considering PlayStation is a big partner with Activision. I mean, we've seen them have the marketing deal with Call of Duty for years now, which means, yes, there's Activision's logo, there's PlayStation's logo right next to each other. And I'm sure Jim Ryan's like, wait a minute. We don't want any part of this. We didn't do anything. So yeah, obviously this is putting it out there in the public, right? Just letting everyone know, yeah, we're looking into this because we don't want this to somehow just spill over to PlayStation in any way, shape, or form. Now, will this, again, move the needle with Activision? It's hard to say. The fact, though, that Sony is applying pressure and even calling out Activision internally, that's now been made public by Bloomberg, is a pretty big deal. Now, we do have another update later on in the day yesterday, this from game developer, saying that Activision Blizzard leadership continued to stand by embattled CEO Bobby Kotick during an all-hands meeting today. Execs also answered pre-screen questions from employees, so not the real questions, basically. I get the feeling that despite all the pushback online right now, everyone's just saying, hey, you gotta resign. Like, this is it. Right, for Bobby Kotick, I feel like he's gonna stick around. He's gonna figure out a way. He has the backing of the board of directors. Even the higher up execs are with an all hands on deck meeting when all the employees are doing walkouts saying, no, we back up Bobby Kotick. It's just the way this game is played. I think we all understand it, right? So it's like, what can you do at this point other than just continue to apply pressure and see what continues to turn up, as it seems now every publication currently is looking into this. And I mean, if there are more skeletons in the closet, I have a feeling they're going to find them. Next up, let's talk about what's basically become expected now in 2021. That's another game delay. This one, interesting though, because it's a game that was already going to release in 2022, was completely dated, and now it's being pushed later in the year. That's Saints Row. We can see this posted up over on Twitter. This from the Saints Row official account saying Saints Row will no longer release on the originally announced date of February 25th, 2022. Instead, it will launch worldwide on August 23rd, 2022. Now, they go on further to say that this will give them the opportunity to create the best Saints Row game yet. So they'll just take extra development time. But let's face it, February was getting crowded as it is. Like, I feel like out of all the games, I mean, Elden Ring, Horizon, and then we also have Dying Light 2, which was coming out at the beginning of the month. I feel like they just didn't want any part of that. They said, you know what, we'll push it to later in the year. And I mean, the reception around what they showed with Saints Row when they first revealed it was certainly mixed. It's just the aesthetic that it gave off, the characters didn't exactly go over the best online. And while, of course, generally the mainstream is what tends to make a game overly successful when it comes down to things, it still probably wasn't the reception they were expecting. I mean, they even had to do a lot of explaining after the reveal, like saying things like, hey, you get to create your own character. You don't have to play as like the character we showed here, but it was too late. So maybe later on in 2022, maybe around like E3 time or something, we get another trailer and they try to explain the game all over again. We'll see if the extra development time gives them the opportunity to actually make the game better, or just maybe change some things around and try to present it in a different way as we head now towards its new release later in August. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about some sales numbers for the current systems, that being the PS5, the Xbox Series, and the Switch, because there's an interesting trend that is starting to form on the Xbox side when it comes to the split between the Series S and the Series X. First though, let's take a look at the statistics here that were published by Ampere Analytics, and We can see immediately, yes, the Switch, 89.7 million systems. By the way, they're comparing the Switch, the Series, and the PS5 all together. I guess, does that mean that the Switch is indeed in that generation with the Xbox Series and the PS5? Seems to be here anyway, but maybe Ampere Games, who's tracking this as of the end of September, just like, hey, these are the current platforms from the different game companies now. But then we have the PS5 at 12.8 million units. And then the Xbox Series at 6.7. Yep, it looks like the PS5 is almost at a 2-to-1 ratio when it comes to the consoles sold. That's kind of expected. We have seen the PS5 continue its extreme popularity and Sony doing everything they can to get more and more systems out to store shelves. And the Xbox Series, while the X is harder to find, the Series S seems to be more readily available. I've noticed this even in my area where like the Best Buy near me right now, if I look online, you can just pick it up in store in an hour. And I've even spotted them just on store shelves at my local Walmart, which isn't too surprising considering it appears that the Xbox Series S is just selling better than the Series X overall, and most likely it is easier for Microsoft to create them. Obviously, it is cheaper, but there have been a lot of theories around the chips inside being smaller so you can actually create more of them per assembly line, and a few other things going into it. But the pricing is one of the biggest factors here, right? Like a lot of people look at that and say, okay, it's $300. I can also get Game Pass. I can get some games digitally. And it just makes things a lot easier for me to jump into the ecosystem without spending an arm and a leg on a $500 system. Seriously, that sticker price is still a really big deal when it comes down to things. But we are seeing places like gamesindustry.biz saying the consoles have a 50-50 split in terms of install base across major territories. And what this is telling me is Microsoft is pushing more and more into the digital side of things when it comes to their Xbox brand. If you look at, say, Call of Duty Vanguard, according to GSD, over 90% of sales were on digital over physical for the Xbox. That's a pretty big deal, and it makes sense. If you buy an Xbox Series S, you're not buying discs for it. You're buying them digitally or you're subscribing to Game Pass. Now, the other big reason as to why the Xbox Series X isn't as readily available is because Microsoft is using that for their data center, specifically for their cloud streaming that they've been working very, very hard to get up and running completely, which we just talked about earlier in the show, that they have that streaming capability now available for the Xbox One and the Xbox Series platforms. But that, I'm sure, is where a lot of silicone is going right now as opposed to shipping out to retail. So as they get that all worked out with game streaming and their data centers, I feel like the Xbox Series X will become more readily available. But still, it's going to be hard to find these systems probably throughout all of next year. But the Series S might actually start popping up on store shelves more and more as we go along, which, yeah, tells me that by the time we get to the end of this generation, I have a strong feeling the Series S is going to be the best-selling Xbox of the generation. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a little poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, are you buying Pokemon Brilliant Diamond or Shining Pearl? 24% said yes, getting it day one. 22% said yes, but not right away. And then 54% said no, I'm passing on it. And that's kind of what I expected. I would expect like a 50-50 split, as I'm sure there are a lot of Pokemon fans who maybe saw the visuals or just the games in general, and they weren't what they were expecting or hoping for with the remake. Now, if you're a big Pokemon fan, you're probably still going to pick these up, maybe for nostalgia's sake or just because it's the next Pokemon game, but I do still believe a lot of people are looking forward to Arceus, and maybe this ends up being like a Christmas present for them or something there. Either way, I'll be picking it up this Friday, and hopefully I get a chance to play it at some point because Shin Megami Tensei 5 just came in. I want to play that, and then obviously I'm playing Halo Infinite. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Brian saying he'll be fired and get a gigantic severance package for our troubles. You're absolutely right about that. If Bobby Kotick does resign or anything, he's getting paid. That's the thing that's just is always mind-blowing about this situation. You see a CEO basically get fired or asked, hey, you gotta resign, otherwise we're gonna remove you. Oh, and here's tens of millions of dollars to go away. Can you imagine that? You get fired and you get tens of millions of dollars to leave. Most people just get asked to pack their stuff up and leave. You don't get money for it necessarily. You might if you get laid off with a smaller severance package, but not tens of millions of dollars. So to be honest, either way, Bobby Kotick stays there, gives himself hundreds of millions of dollars in bonuses, or he leaves, retires, and gets tens of millions of dollars for doing that. So Either way, no matter which way you look at it, right now, Bobby Kotick is probably going to win out in the situation, which is unfortunate. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike, leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was the whole Activision situation, Sony actually even calling them out, but it makes sense considering how closely they've partnered themselves with things like Call of Duty. Also, what about Halo Infinite? Have you had a chance to play it this week? And what do you think about it so far? Specifically though, the Battle Pass progression. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.